now we will teach about the trends in curriculum planning. We have already discussed that what kind of massive open online programs have been introduced and what are the pedagogical practices are being introduced in our educational institutions. Apart from these, there are two another trends that are in fashion and that we are trying to achieve through these incentives, through these kinds of trends in order to make our curriculum more attractive, more interesting, as well as fulfilling the objectives of National Education Policy 2020. Because the five fundamental principles of NEP 2020 is that equality, equity, accountability, quality, affordability, and we try to achieve these objectives through our education program. Now let us see what about the student diversity and inclusive education. This is also concerned with the new trends because in classroom there are a lot of students, those who are from different backgrounds, those who are from different kind of having different kind of cultural backgrounds, different languages spoken, and they differ in their abilities, they differ in their interest, and they differ in their mental abilities also. So, when all are in one class, how can we teach all the students? This is also a challenge for a teacher. So, how can the uh, curriculum planner can fulfill these objectives? Let us see. Student diversity, as I told you that students differ in their lot of perspectives. Student diversity refers to the presence of a wide range of differences among students within a learning environment, and these differences can include variations in cultural backgrounds, interest, abilities, perspectives, learning styles, language spoken, and individual needs also. So, the NEP 2020 says that embrace the equity. Equity means participation of all learners. So, try to motivate all the learners to include in the education process. So, the curriculum planner always keep in mind that we should give space to each and every individual. Our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi also says that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. So we have to move all together, and embracing student diversity promotes inclusivity, equity, and a supportive learning environment where all students can thrive and contribute positively to the educational community. Here are some points to define student diversity in simple language. Let us try to understand what is the concept of student diversity. Different backgrounds, students come from various places, cultures and families, which makes each person unique. Varied interest, each student has their own hobbies, passions and things, and they enjoy doing outside of school. Unique abilities, students have different kind of skills, have different kind of talents, and few are interested in sports, few are interested in writing, few are interested in oral presentation, so they differ in their abilities. Diverse perspectives, everyone sees the world differently based on their experiences, beliefs and values. Varying learning styles, some students learn better by listening, some by playing, some by reading, some by observing, so it differs study habits from one learner to another. Language diversity, people speak different languages at home, which adds richness to the classroom environment. Different needs, some students may require extra support or accommodations to succeed in school due to learning disabilities or other challenges. As per UNESCO definition of inclusive education means when we include all the learners having different backgrounds, having different cultural backgrounds, having different beliefs and having different interest, having different abilities and talents, but we try to include all. So, as per UNESCO, what is inclusive education? UNESCO inclusive education is seen as a process of addressing and responding to the diversity of needs of all learners through increasing participation in learning, cultures and communities, and reducing exclusion from education and from within education. The term inclusive education is a step ahead of integrated education in that it goes beyond children with disabilities and refers to an education system that accommodates all children regardless of their physical, intellectual, social, emotional, linguistic or other conditions. All children and young people of the world with their individual strengths and weaknesses, with their hopes and expectations, have the right to education. It is not our education system that have a right to certain type of children. Therefore, it is the school system of a country that must be adjusted to meet the needs of all children. It is by UN Rapporteur 1994. The National Curriculum Framework in 2005 clearly gives significance to child-centered pedagogy that can meet the range of challenges confronting the inclusive school system. So, sometimes we are confused that what is inclusion, and we are focusing on one individual that are having a particular problem, but it is not inclusion. Inclusion means adding all. So, let us see the definition of inclusion. Inclusion is not focusing on an individual or a small group of people for whom the curriculum is adapted. Different work is devised or support assistance is provided. About how to assimilate individual pupils with identified special education needs into existing forms of schooling. Inclusion is a process rather than a state by which a school attempts to respond to all pupils as individuals. Regards inclusion and exclusion as connected processes, school develop more inclusive practices may need to consider both. Emphasizes the reconstructing of curriculum provision in order to reach out to all pupils as individuals. Emphasizes overall school effectiveness. Is of relevance to all phases and types of schools, possibly including special schools, since within any educational provision, teachers face groups of students with diverse needs and are required to respond to this diversity. The Person with Disabilities PWD Equal Opportunities Protection of Right and Full Participation Act 2016. This is for those who are having any kind of disabilities. So, those who are having any disabilities, we can't ignore them because they also have special kind of talent. Say for example, the visually challenged child sings a song beautifully and having a melodious voice and presenting the song like a excellent performance. So she has this talent, and what is the role of school in this regard? The role of the school is to flourish this talent. So education should give the space to all those even having any kind of disability. And there are so many examples from the society, specifically the disabled persons, those contributed remarkably to the society. Malini Chib, one English writer who who doesn't has the coordination between brain and this muscles, and palsy. uh, this disease is known as a kind of palsy reflection, and she is unable to speak clearly, and not able to write the words on the copy in a fluent manner. But with the help of little finger, the little finger of this hand, she started to write the book, and within 2 years or 3 years she wrote all the book. So this is the talent and this is the passion. So we can't ignore the disabled students because they also having specific kind of talent. Helen Keller is also an example of this disabled person. She also having lot of talents, and she contributed to the society in the form of literature, in the form of writings, and her writings are significantly having importance, and it gives message that everyone can do special kind of act also, even the person is having disability. In one autobiography of Helen Keller, she said that she was taking round around the garden, and she told that in Hindi I am saying that रात इतनी लंबी हो गई कि दिन आता ही नहीं, रात इतनी लंबी हो गई कि सवेरा होता ही नहीं. So this is the inner feeling of a person, that that she wants to see the world by eyes, and vision is not here, and she could not observe that what is going around the world, but every kind of feeling she had. And this feelings, this kind of talent, this kind of abilities that the students having disability should be flourish by the teacher, and the curriculum is only the tool through which we can provide space for such kind of students also. So the promoting the integration of students with disabilities in normal schools, promoting the setting of special schools in the government and private sector, conducting special part-time classes for providing functional literacy for children in the age group of 16 and above, imparting education through open schools or open universities, conducting class and discussions through interactive electronic or other media, providing every child with disability free of cost special books and equipment needed. So these are the provisions for disabled students provided in the curriculum. The NCA of 2005 underscores the importance of participation of all children, especially the children with special needs, children from marginalized section, and children in difficult circumstances in all spheres of life, both in and outside the school. It states inclusive education is about embracing all. So this is equity, that is, as per NEP 2020, it is equity, that is embrace the equity. The Right to Education Act 2009, it provides for free and compulsory education to all children to the age of 6 to 14 years, including the children with disabilities. Now we come to the another trend of the curriculum, that is gender equality. We are also promoting the gender equality like the inclusive classroom, and we are having this kind of opinion that the girl child should be giving the opportunity equal to the counterpart, that is male students. So what will happen, that the importance is this, that the potential that a woman having, it should be flourish also, and they should also be provided the opportunities to come forward. Let us see what kind of content we are having and what kind of expression that we are having here. if you educate a man, you educate an individual. However, if you educate a woman, you educate a whole family. This is said by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, our late Prime Minister of India. He told that if you are educating one individual or the male counterpart, you are educating one individual only. But if you are educating a woman, you are educating a family, because woman plays a significant role for a family, and she has to educate kids also. Whatever the culture, whatever the values a student carries from the family, this is the combined effect of mother and father both. But mother gives much more contribution in this regard, because the child is every time he or she is with mother. So, if you are educating a woman, it means you are educating a family. See, when we define the gender, it is a social construct and it defines and differentiates the roles, rights, responsibilities, and what is appropriate behavior and obligations for women and men. The innate biological differences between females and males are interpreted by society to create a set of social expectations that define the behaviors that are appropriate for women and men, and that determine women's and men's differential access to rights, resources, and power in society. Although the specific nature and degree of these differences vary from one society to the next, they typically favor men, creating an imbalance in power and a gender inequality that exists in most societies worldwide. Gender equality is when people of all genders have equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. Gender equality means that all genders are free to pursue whatever career, lifestyle, choice, and abilities they want without discrimination. Their rights, opportunities, and access to society are not different based on their gender. Gender equality does not necessarily mean that everyone is treated exactly the same. Their different needs and dreams are valued equally. So, as we give importance to male students, we should also be giving equal treatment to the female student also, and curriculum should provide the equal space for both. The United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights states all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, yet women's freedom, dignity, and equality are regarded as distinct from that of men's. Despite all subsequent efforts of the United Nations to recognize women's right as human right, and despite the fact that formal equality for women is explicitly enshrined within Indian law, Indian women's lives continue to be characterized by pervasive discrimination and substantive inequality. World Bank reported that promoting gender equality is an essential component of an effective economic and human development strategy. There is now a shared understanding within the development community that development policies and actions that fail to take gender inequality into account and fail to address disparities between males and females will have limited effectiveness and serious cost implications. The struggle to achieve gender equality and bridge the gap between men and women is a long and difficult one. And India has another opportunity to do much better for half of its population with the Global Gender Gap Index for 2022 released by the World Economic Forum on Wednesday placing it at 135 out of 146 countries. But the new data, India's ranking in 2021 was 140 out of 156 countries, hardly brings cheer as India has fared the worst in at least one of the parameters, health and survival, and in which it took the last spot. So, the Global Gender Gap Index benchmarks the current state and evolution of gender parity across four dimensions: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. India ranks poorly among its neighbors and is behind Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Maldives and Bhutan. Only Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan perform worse than India in this region. India in the region. Gender education is chosen as the main target to attain the third Millennium Development Goal. To promote gender equality and empower women. The target is the elimination of gender disparity in primary and secondary education by 2005 and at all levels of education by 2015. The rationale for a gender equality perspective in education implies a right perspective as well as a development perspective. Education is a basic human right according to Article 26 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and everyone has the right to education. Education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. Elementary education shall be compulsory. Technical and professional education shall be made generally available, and higher education shall be equally accessible to all on the basis of merit. National policy on education, it emphasizes key values such as equality between men and women, eradicating social ills and degrading practices, small family practices, etc. So, these all should be given equal place in curriculum. The NEP and program of action highlight the need to improve the social, nutritional and health status of the girls, and also to strengthen support services such as drinking water, fodder fuel and early childhood care and education as an integral component of the universal elementary education. The program of action emphasizes the need to revise textbook, to remove gender bias and gender sensitize all educational personnel so that equality between sexes could be internalized through gender sensitive curriculum which includes gender and its practice. Constitutional provision for upliftment of women. The Constitution of India guarantees women's equality in fundamental rights, directive principle and fundamental duties, as well as empowers states and institutions to enact policy measures to nullify the gender discrimination and political, educational and socio-economic disadvantages faced by women. See, these are the articles, and in the another hand there are provisions are given. See Article 14, equality before the law and equal protection. Article 15, 1 and 2 prohibits the state from discriminating against any citizen only on the basis of any one or more of the aspects such as religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. Article 15(3) allows the state to establish special measures for the protection of women's and children's interests. Article 15(4) empowers the state to make special provisions to promote the interest and welfare of socially and educationally disadvantaged people in society. Article 16 guarantees all citizens equal chance in matters relating to employment or appointment to any state office. Article 39A, the state to ensure equal access to adequate livelihood for men and women. Article 39D, equal pay should given to men and women for similar work. Article 42, the Constitution directs the state to establish provisions ensuring equitable and humane working conditions and maternity leave. Article 51AE, every citizen of India is obligated to oppose actions that are disrespectful to women's dignity. Article 243D3, in each panchayat, 1/3 of the seats to be filled by direct election shall be reserved for women. Article 243D4, 1/3 of the total number of panchayat chairperson positions at each level will be reserved for women. Article 243T3, in each municipality, women shall be guaranteed 1/3 of the seats to be filled through direct selection. Women representation in Parliament, as per the data compiled by the Inter-Parliament Union, of which women represent 14.44% of the total numbers of the Lok Sabha. As per the latest Election Commission of India, as of October 2021, women represent 10.5% of the total members of the Parliament. The scenario for women members of legislative assemblies across all state assemblies in India is even worse, with the national average being a pitiable 9%. In the last 75 years of independence, women's representation in Lok Sabha has not even increased by 10%. Women in judiciary, in high courts, the percentage of women judges is a mere 11.5%, while in the Supreme Court there are 4 sitting women judges out of 33 in office. The situation of women lawyers in the country is not any better. Out of 1.7 million advocates registered, only 15 are women. Now that I shown you that what kind of progress has been made by the women and what kind of deterioration or what kind of low level of percentage in different kind of workplace is there. So why do we feel that women should be given motivation for raising their numbers in different workplaces? Now, government has always initiated and lot of efforts have been made by the government of India for the upliftment of the women, but the work is not up to the satisfactory level. So, what are the initiatives given by the government of India? The Women Reservation Bill 2008. It proposes to amend the Constitution of India to reserve 1/3 of all seats in the lower house of Parliament of India, the Lok Sabha, and in all state legislative assemblies for women. Reservation for women in Panchayati Raj institutions. Article 243D of the Constitution ensures participation of women in Panchayati Raj institutions by mandating not less than 1/3 reservation for women out of total number of seats to be filled by direct election and number of offices of chairpersons of panchayats. Parliamentary Committee on Empowerment of Women. The Committee on Empowerment of Women was constituted for the first time in 1997 during the 11th Lok Sabha of the Parliament for improving the status of women. The members of the committee are expected to work together for the empowerment of women cutting across party affiliations. Importance of education in gender equality. Education helps to reduce inequality, pave the way of development, just as food is necessary for the development of the body. On the same way, education provides nutrition to the mind. The power of pen is more than the power of sword, and education provides economic empowerment. The education of girls and women can lead to a wider range of benefits to improve maternal health, reduce infant mortality, and many other problems. Education improves wages and jobs for women, makes women healthier, empowers women to fight for their rights, protects girls from harmful practices, and can challenge education stereotypes. Causes of women low empowerment: household chores, pregnancy, parental attitude towards females, lack of essential facilities in colleges, gender bias, lack of awareness, poverty, insecurities while studying in another state or country, lack of women colleges, lack of parental support, prejudice about women's abilities, conflict ridden environment. Causes of gender inequality in India. There are a lot of causes, and one is the poverty. Due to low socio-economic status, the women are unable to attend the school. So the government has started this massive online courses. Those who are unable to come, they may attend the classes through online, and fellowship and other scholarship programs have also been launched by the Government of India. So the female counterparts can take benefit from these kind of schemes. So curriculum is also responsible to provide such kind of awareness among the women course, so that they will be able to know that how can we raise our literacy after going through these kinds of schemes. Parliament set up in our Indian society. Since time immemorial, India has been an extremely patriarchal society. The patriarchal setup in Indian society contributed to the fundamental inequality between men and women, as women were considered a part of the household belonging to their father or husband. They were unable to get a say in any matters concerning their own development or that of community at large. Lack of education or illiteracy, because the disparity between the literacy rates of men and women in India, it is also an issue, and due to this reason the women are not coming to the schools and they are not having higher education. Specifically, few literate women in India only going to the higher education institutions, otherwise other will come under the head of dropouts. Lack of awareness among women. One of the major cause of gender inequality is the lack of awareness among women about their rights and their ability to achieve equality. Social customs, belief and practices. The views of society, custom and cultural practices play a big role in keeping women at lower places in society, refusing them opportunities which are generally provided to men who are considered the dominant ones in India. So these are the Mission Shakti in Uttar Pradesh. So such kind of schemes should also be mentioned in the curriculum. And what kind of initiatives have been taken by the Government of India, it should also be mentioned in curriculum. So the latest trends in curriculum also says that we should give encouragement to all in order to embrace the equity. So these are the few. Samagra Shiksha is also one kind of educational program for the students belonging to 6 to 14 age group, and Mission Shakti in Uttar Pradesh, Mission Shakti in Odisha. These are the also programs that giving a boost to women education. So the Uttar Pradesh government launched Mission Shakti program on October 17 from the beginning of the Shardiya Navaratri and will run until April Basantik Navaratri for the security of women in the state. Governor Anandbeni Patel Sahiba launched the campaign in Lucknow, while Honorable Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath gave a kick start it in the Balrampur. So our Honorable Governor Anandiben Patel launched the campaign in Lucknow, while our Honorable Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath gave a kick start it in Balrampur. Honorable CM also declared Mission Shakti start with the hopes of guaranteeing respect and safety to every woman of UP. Honorable Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath further said that the respect and safety of women and children is the Indian culture and the mission is being started keeping that in mind. So it was proposed that the ministries and other people's representatives will launch the campaign in other districts too of Uttar Pradesh. During the event, the Chief Minister also stated that in approximately 1,500 police stations all over the state there would be a separate room for women complaints. Mission Shakti in Odisha prior to Uttar Pradesh, it also gives the security to the girl education. The objectives of these Mission Shakti is formation, gradation, promotion of self-help groups, establishment of bank linkage, financial assistance, imparting training, strengthening capacity building, conducting exposure visit, skill-based training, production, promotion, marketing of products. So this is about the new trends in curriculum planning. So on conclusion, we can say that in curriculum development, it is very essential that new kind of schemes, new kind of programs that have been launched by Government of India should be given priority. We have studied about the massive open learning programs, we have studied about the pedagogical practices in higher education institutions, we have studies regarding gender equality, we have studied about the inclusive classroom environment. So these all concern with the latest trends in curriculum planning. I do hope that you have enjoyed this learning. Thank you very much.